Uh,
221 years into independence. How you
oh,
feeling?
oh my God, I'm feeling so good. I'm feeling very energized at the fact that I am a physical representation
Mm,
of all of my ancestors' wildest dreams. I am a walking revolution. You are a walking revolution. This space in itself is a
oh yeah.
revolution, and it being owned by another Haitian person in the city of Miami is still a revolution in
Oh
itself.
yeah. And having it be the space that it is.
Exactly. So, on this day, about some odd 400 years at this point, give or take, Haitian folks found the power within spirituality, within themselves, in the immediate community around them through trauma and pain and just the unwielding vision of I am breaking these fucking shackles and you will not keep me captive any longer. And they collectively said, off with their heads.
Pupetet bulekai, literally.
Off with their fucking heads. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. Like, to know that every single last Haitian that is existing currently has an ancestor that cut off their motherfucking captor's head.
That gets me through a lot. Like I don't think people appreciates that like that kind of empowerment and what it does psychologically. But before we get started, hi, my name is Phii
Yes.
Psychoanalysis.
Yes, yes, yes.
I go by Phii. As far as like titles, I kind of try to shake minds. I consider myself a multidisciplinary creator. And that's it. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get into these questions. In
Mm.
general, what is your age? Where are you from? Give me a little background story on like what is the makings of Phi?
Okay. So I am 24 years old, soon to be 25. I was actually born and raised au Cap Haitien on Haiti. I lived there for many, many years and then moved to the United States somewhere around 2012.
Okay.
So for me, my entire family can kind of trace their lineage pretty deep back into Haiti. From my mother's side of the family, we're from north of Haiti. She's from Milo, which is where the Cité de la Ferrière is.
Okay.
So my family owned property right underneath like the biggest fort in the Western Hemisphere.
We love that. That is fucking major. So how does that like that piece of history just existing within your family lineage, having that just be even the backdrop to just like childhood memories,
Mm.
how does that feel for you? Like now living in a state where, yeah, essentially you are living within an empire
Yeah,
of sorts, and that
the
fortune.
empire that also oppressed me.
Exactly.
It's it's bittersweet because sweet and very very deliciously sweet
Yeah.
because it is a privilege to be able to trace your connection to land, especially when you are someone who is existing in the diaspora. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us feel that disconnect and we experience it so viscerally
Hmm.
that it impacts so many other aspects of our identities and how we interact with the world in general. So I am immensely grateful to have that opportunity. On the other hand, it is so hard, especially on days where like it's New Year's, right?
Yeah.
Typically, if I were home in Haiti, I'd be with my father, like our family at the beach
Yeah.
grilling. It's like certain things that I certain memories of my home that I get to cling to,
Yeah.
actively knowing that they're disintegrating and they'll never quite be
Yeah.
what it was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Haiti is changing so rapidly, demographically, socioeconomically, politically.
Yeah.
People are moving at such a rapid rate that like the places I used to connect with and call home no longer look anything like it used
Yeah.
to and or are no longer occupied by the same people. Like there are a
Yeah.
lot of foreigners in Haiti right now.
So, how are you feeling about tradition in general? Because this is
Mm.
a tradition of sorts for Haitians globally,
Hmm.
but this is the first year that we've had the kind of year 2024 was for Haitians. especially coming into
Yeah.
what this next regime will be politically.
No, like I think that's the most apt word for it,
Yeah,
regime.
yeah. So I'm like, what does independence even look like for the current Haitian person existing? How are we even, what does a concept of freedom look like after the year we just had in 2024? Watching so
Well,
many people be stripped of theirs.
oh, I'm not gonna pretend to represent Haitian people like on a huge scale. I think my experience within my identity as a Haitian person is also very niche in and of
Hmm.
itself. But I will say what freedom is to me as a Haitian person
Hmm.
living here and like navigating an ex regime
Yeah.
in the imperial core. I don't know. Freedom looks like letting myself be sad
Hmm.
and angry and mourn the memories of the country I used to know.
Yeah.
Freedom looks like still connecting with friends who visit regularly, even though I don't get a chance to, and talking about, like, I'm lucky enough to still be connected through my classmates,
Yeah.
talking about our old friends in the schools and like the school tea.
Yeah.
And also general city drama. Haiti's quite small.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. Everybody. So I don't know. It looks like
Yeah.
learning recipes from my
Yeah.
grandma, spending time with me, my mother, and my grandmother, no matter how difficult our relationship and testing our relationship may be, just learning these recipes. And freedom looks like sharing those recipes and those little treats with friends and
Yeah.
bringing people into my experience of Haiti.
Yeah.
Um, that's all I can do on my end without like losing my actual sanity. I
Yeah.
mean, you can sit in the grief and you can let it take you and alter you and break you and like ravage you and leave nothing else, or you can find a way to find
Yeah.
some joy. And I think that for me, it's been integral
Yeah.
to my like just ability to proceed forward as a Haitian person after all of this, especially because our history and the way our history is told by foreigners
Yeah.
specifically is marred in pain and violence and brutality, and it's one centered in that.
Yeah.
And it is critical for their mission that it be centered in that.
Yeah.
And so for me, my experiences of Haiti, as hard as they were politically or like whatever the case might be, they were still good. It was my home.
Yeah.
So I try to hold on to that and spread it whenever I can.
So for well, it just in mind when I'm thinking right now, like there's so much grief
Yes.
that we are collectively feeling as a community of folks, whether it's from the diaspora or just even we can't go on the internet without having to see some of the worst atrocities happening to
Yes.
humankind, especially to folks that look just like us.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your practice around grief
Oof.
during this time?
So grief and I are old friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are deeply acquainted. Although, like, I ran from that relationship for as long
Yeah.
as I could remember. I don't think I got serious about handling and like just like, establishing a relationship with grief in general.
Yeah.
Like until 2021. I think for me, it's kind of like when that point hit. And for me, processing grief looks like writing.
Yeah.
A lot of my writing comes from a place of like trying to understand my pain and the intricacies and getting through into like the nook and crannies and seeing what lies where. But like writing has been a huge part of processing my grief. Dancing,
Yeah.
the Little Haiti Cultural Complex, shout out Yannick's, has an amazing
Yeah.
group that gets together at like 1 p.m. every
Every
Saturday.
Saturday.
And going to that folklore dancing class, like feeling the sound of the tambour radiate
Yeah.
throughout the room into your chest.
Yeah.
There's something so incredibly like revitalizing about it. Like you're in a room with people who look like you, who speak like you, who even if their experience through the diaspora,
Yeah.
even if their ethnicities may vary, they still connect with you because they
Exactly.
are part of your culture, and you get to dance with them and just be like a kid.
Yeah.
I think also like really leaning into like the whimsical and
Yeah.
like aspect of life.
Surreal.
Yes, like
Yeah.
going on walks with your friends.
Yeah.
Just like walking, literally
Yeah.
just like walking by the beach, sitting there and just like talking about childhood shows and snacks and
Yeah.
things like that. I think like a huge part of grieving has been just letting whatever feelings come as they will, and
Remembering.
yes, and also like not trying to like fight my feelings. It's not me versus the feeling. It's more of a what is this feeling that I'm feeling in my body? Where is it? And like what is it trying to teach me?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times our bodies are tools trying to keep us alive in very subtle ways because it can't speak.
Yeah.
So we have to be attuned to listen.
As you kind of explained that, I start to like, my mind starts to really bring me to this. Essentially, it's kind of like a form of ancestral work beyond dancing and remembering and trying to mirror the lives in which we once had. What form of ancestral work do you feel shows up for you?
Gardening.
Yeah.
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 I think I got the gift of gardening through my grandmother.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that my family owned plots of land underneath the citadel. So my grandmother faithfully raised 12 kids as a farmer.
Wow.
She worked that land. Her husband.
Any particular like kind of source?
I
Was
mean,
rice?
they had everything.
Okay.
If you can think of like fruits and produce, they had it. Like yam, tayo, patat, all kinds of potatoes, banan, rice.
Peanuts?
We had pomme de caillou,
Okay.
which is where cashews come from. Soursop,
Okay.
kashima,
A food forest of sorts.
you like if you can think like passion fruit, like if it's a produce or fruit that's like actively consumed in Haiti,
Yeah.
she had that shit there. Also, like part of a huge part of growing up for her because she is almost 100 years old. My grandma was born in the 1920s. Yeah,
Okay.
she's a
Congrats
G.
to her, yo.
And a huge part of her life was just like there was one major hospital in the city where she was living. It wasn't
Yeah.
far from her home, but like when you have 12 kids and like shit to handle,
Yeah.
you have business to handle. And so a huge part of that was just like growing her own herbs for medicine.
Yeah.
And generally, like my family considers themselves Christian, but the reality is in talking with people from my family and like trying to get the stories, you
Yeah.
know, it's very evident that like Christianity became a huge part of my family after the dictatorship.
Yeah.
So
Which one? Papa or baby?
baby, because
Okay.
Papa Doc was pro voodoo, baby Doc, and then changed his mind, and then baby Doc doubled down on the fuck voodoo
Okay.
kind of mindset.
Okay.
And a huge part of that is like kind of like I feel like when my family pivoted, and but they kept the herb aspect. And I think for me, growing up as a kid, even when we were living in the city with my mother, we had always had like a massive garden. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't anywhere near like as extensive as like my grandma because we're in a city,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But my mom always took great care to have like herbs that can deal with whatever ails and ailments like the elders within the neighborhood
Yeah.
might need. Then yeah, like that's what she would do because she was in healthcare. My mom was in the healthcare profession, and
Okay.
medicine needed to be
Yeah,
accessible.
you know, I feel like those are Haitian jobs essentially for us. We are the caretakers and the healers of the world. Like our walking existence is honestly what's been healing the West for so long in terms of
I think
breaking
it's kind of our
bonds.
legacy if when you
Yeah.
think about it. Like we were kind of insured with like taking care of Central and South America for a hot
Yeah.
second.
So, with that being said, what is your first memory of of magic in your life?
Oh wow, my first memory.
Because gardening feels, that's at that point your family's a green witch, whether they believe it or not. They're green witches.
Yeah.
But that may not be the first, the first
Yeah.
aspect or memory of collection of like, yo, there's a natural gift that something just blossoms when I put either my mind or the senses to it?
So I do have the experience, but I would like to preface this with a bit of a warning.
Yeah.
I will be discussing topics of suicidability and suicide in general.
Trigger warning.
So if you would like not to be interacting with that kind of content, now would be a great time to like mute or switch. But my first experience with like spirituality and like knowing that there was like spirit in my life was around like 7. I
Hmm.
think I was very young when I started like experiencing very like intense emotion, like the I didn't want to kill myself. I just really wanted to be dead.
Yeah.
And I did not have the language for it because you're a child.
Yeah.
And there was a lot that contributed to my feeling that way for as long as I did. But I remember being 7 and just like at the beach with my father. And I was a really good swimmer at it, like ever since I was really young. And I just remember like getting away from my father and just like floating in the middle of the ocean, nowhere near
Yeah.
like our boat, just like floating and just like begging the water to just swallow me.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there for so long, just like floating. And like I remember I don't know how I made it on shore, but the water pushed me out. I just remembered like just my body touching sand.
Yeah.
And like obviously like my father was worried and my family were frantically looking for me, but I was fine. And I was on the other side of a small little island, like where we were in Haiti. But I was just on the sand actively, like wishing for death and feeling the water deny me.
Yeah.
And for me, that was my first. And it's kind of been like a consistent, kind of like soft hum in my life since, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to deny that.
Would you say that also help contribute to, because I feel like at this point we're all a combination of so many different spirituality practices
Hmm.
and religions, and as we decolonize ourselves and relearn who we are, we pick up practices along the way.
Hmm.
What would you say you feel most connected to in terms of practice? The Taino tradition.
I
Eh,
think for context, I have been going to like Catholic school since I was like 3 years old.
expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of like was pushed through that pipeline. I think I connect with Christianity, not necessarily Christianity as is understood in the West,
Yeah.
but like Christianity as is understood
Yeah.
in Central and Latin America. If you
Yeah.
know, you know. If you don't, mind your business. Um, and with that said, I feel like my connection to Christianity is just kind of a conduit.
Yeah.
It's the tool I was given to talk to the universe.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, it's the tool I have
Yeah.
and the
No.
tool I get to use. And so I think there's a lot of connection with me in Catholicism specifically.
Yeah.
And funny enough, there's like a bit of a connection too. So like I said, I was born Okap.
Yeah.
During my birthday is like the celebration of Fête Limonade, which is the Fête Sainte Anne,
Yeah.
which is the saint that oversees my city
Okay.
and my family. So
Okay.
I don't know, like for me, it's kind of felt kind of like more of a yes, I'm Christian, but plus.
Plus
And
this. Yeah.
yes, I use Christian language to connect, and yes, I say the word God, and yes, I use a lot of that juxtaposition, but like it's the conduit, it's the tool that I have to voice the feelings that I am experiencing and to connect with the universe in the way I was taught.
Yeah.
And that may not be necessarily with the Christian God, but it
Yeah.
is
You
the
know,
preference.
I think
feel.
in general, like we all kind of found vocabulary
Mhm.
through Christianity. I will always say that I'm culturally Christian.
Yes.
I'm culturally Christian. I will always celebrate Christmas. I will always go to church for Easter because I do think that, like, like I can still get a word or hear what I need for my life in
Yeah.
those spaces. But I also have expanded on the topic around God. There's a limited kind of spectrum and view and interaction that Christianity at this present moment has for, yeah, how big and vast, like how vast this human experience can be.
Yeah. And not just that, I feel that like Christianity was forced onto our people in
Exactly.
such a brutal way. And but it is what our people had and they did the best they could with it. And I will
Beautifully,
yes,
might I add.
beautifully.
Beautifully.
And I will never look at that sacrifice and knowing the violence they had to endure because my family members,
Yeah.
there are plenty of them who are very much alive who can attest to like the violence they witnessed
Yeah.
their entire life as a result. I'm not going to take that sacrifice and look down on it simply because it's connected to Christianity or whiteness. At the end of the day, the only reason why we are alive and
Yeah.
the only reason why we get to carry on with cultures and traditions is because we found a way to take their tools and
Yeah.
also implement ours.
Yeah.
And there's beauty in that.
Yeah. I always like to remember that I'm somebody's prayer.
Yes.
I'm here because my grandmother prayed over my life, and even their grandparents prayed over our life. So, like I think there's so much that our generation, especially like we get to be as loudly queer
Mm.
within this life. A lot of folks before us could not do that, and part of that is us also decolonizing how spirit was spiritual homes we accept ourselves to be in, because even if you practice non-traditional Christian religions and more African traditional religions, you still have all of these other identities that may not be welcome in those spaces.
Yes.
So with that being said, have you found a spiritual home,
I
or does that even matter?
don't that's where I was gonna go with it. I was like, I don't know how much it I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It does to some extent. I think there's different weight to it and there's different aspect to it that we need to like levy like in a smart way.
Yeah.
And I am still like 24, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my family still has difficulty naming the thing they're practicing.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to find a home when you don't even have the language to explain what it is that you're doing. Number
Yeah.
one. Number two, I think just like within the space of queerness, I think queerness actually made me understand that like family is what you make it, and
Yeah.
spiritual homes can also reside within you and the people you bring into your life, I
Yeah.
think. So the way I'm viewing that is I am currently building my spiritual home in the sense that like I am actively fostering the kinds of relationships in my life that support my long-term goals, both materially and corporeally
Yeah.
and spiritually.
Yeah.
So that's my answer to that question.
No. I think that's a really beautiful, beautiful answer, because, yeah, queerness has been the answer for a lot of our,
Yeah.
answers to whether we can find relationships that fully are affirming us, spiritual practices that fully affirming us. Like, we get to be the architect of sorts
Yes.
of what our life will actually take shape opposed to someone telling us and passing down traditions. I think is a really beautiful thing.
Also, what
to-
is home in a diaspora? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's a really like hard concept because like even if you're like me where you're born in a country and you spend years in that country and you have established family, established friendships, and established support system and community and all that, like you get uprooted and you move, even if it's for 5 years, you are immediately othered because for 5
Exactly.
years you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
And for 5 years, you were interacting with other people from different walks who might not resemble the population where you used to reside. And
Yeah.
therefore, you are utterly changed as a result. It doesn't mean you're unwelcome. It just means that, like, people in your home country will interact with you as if you are a foreigner.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause
not-
you are.
Because you are. I was going to say it's not their fault because you are a
Yeah,
foreigner.
You are.
And it's not that they don't welcome you because it is your home, but you are still a foreigner.
Yeah.
And so what is home really, other than whatever we make it? And that also is true in spirituality.
Yeah, no, they say like when two people come together, that's church.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in general, I think that like there's just that's why I kind of like I weep for Christianity at times because like there's so much that actually could be passed on if folks actually took the time to invest in reading the text for themselves.
Yes. And it's a huge part as to why I feel comfortable claiming Christianity, even though like I'm like, okay, not in the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
Simply because like
I know the
on its
messaging.
core,
Yeah.
like when you look at the Bible, the core tenets of Christianity are things that are like
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah,
You know what I
no.
mean? It's like it's good morals and good like to
Exactly.
not be a shady person and to
Yeah.
not be abusive and to feed your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
You should respect your parents if your parents respect you too.
Also, the full commitment says honor thy mother and father, but
Yeah.
parents that shall not hasten your children to anger. They always forget the second part,
Yeah.
but not around here, partner.
Yeah, but okay. So, my next question honestly would be what are your practices around creation and birth? Not in the sense of actually bringing new life physically, but I think through spirituality, like we're constantly going through some type of renewal.
Yeah.
What is your renewal process, especially since it's the first day of the fucking year?
Yeah. Oh my God. So it's been something I've been working on refining for myself.
Yeah.
Because I said, like, I'm so new. Like, even though I'm well acquainted with grief, I'm so new in my relationship with grief.
Yeah.
And for me, what has been working, I think, like, firstly, I would like to say, like, relationships are like the first place I properly learned about like small deaths
Yeah.
of selves. That was a doozy. And I think for me, a huge part of that was understanding that like nothing is stasis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything is always changing.
Yeah.
And accepting that because I'm made of everything and everything is also made of me, I'm always changing. I think the biggest process for me through grief is to accept that like the present is what it is. I may not like any of my options,
Yeah.
but I always have choices.
Yeah.
And it boils down to, okay, like how far are you willing to commit to that choice? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's a harder part. And for grief, it's about like not running away from that fear
Mm-hmm.
that
It's surrender and yeah.
yeah, because when you're having this conversation with yourself, it is frightening because you're saying, okay, these are my goals, these are what I want. But like it's easy to want things. It's a
Mhm.
lot harder to sit there and like critically ask yourself, hey, what it is that I'm willing to do?
Sacrifice.
How far am I willing to go to get what it is that I want? And that for me is like sitting in that fear, acknowledging that it's fear and just fear,
Mm-hmm.
and just letting myself feel and just conceding to feeling and not hiding from it, not suppressing it, not trying to alter it or like necessarily like have perfect language to like verbalize it and
Yeah.
like propagate it to the world, but just for me. And also just cleansing. I think yeah, it's been the biggest important like thing for me because whenever like you wipe the slate clean, it's kind of like that saying the picture's clear on the mountaintop. Like
Yeah.
that cleansing gives you like a sense of like perspective,
Yeah.
and it gives you it gives me a bit more peace towards like my like heading towards my resolution and actually committing to whatever it is that like I have to get done. But mostly it is just about accepting that like
Yeah.
no matter how hard, how defeating the situation, I always have choices.
Yeah. Well, as you kind of navigate both grief and renewal and rebirth,
Mm.
do you feel closer to God?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am a writer and I have been writing a whole lot
Yeah.
about it. I'm currently working on a book, like a poetry book specifically around the topic. I think it's impossible
Yeah.
to go through like grief and like birth, because that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
death and rebirth, and not feel a sense of connection to something greater than yourself, because to experience a death of self is such a like viscerally like
Yeah.
jarring experience. I think when chips are down, people get a little like cosmical.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, like it's kind of hard to go through adversity without wanting to connect, or like feeling that like
Yeah.
driving sense of connection.
Yeah. That's
And
why
that's God. That's what God is,
exactly.
to me at least.
That's why I always kind of will give it up to Christianity in a sense, because like when I am going through my lowest of lows, like it's nothing that a silent prayer won't do to change my entire situation, or even how I feel about processing that situation or whatever I'm seeing as an adversity at the moment. So, who taught you how to pray?
Oh, I learned how to pray through a myriad of different ways.
Yeah.
First place I learned how to pray was with my mom.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a kid, you have the little prayers,
Yeah.
like some
Thank-
vendois, because Haitian, and
We
like
love
before bed,
French.
yes, we're calling on that some vendois every single time. You know what I mean? That was like kind of like the first place I kind of learned how to pray. Then I got to, like I said, I've been going through Catholic school since I was like 3.
Yeah.
Then I got to school and I learned a more formal way of prayer, and that Catholic school leaned really into like OG Catholic identity. So like
Yeah.
we lean into the Latin.
Okay.
So like I think my praying style involves so many. I mean, like I was also partially my grandmother for a really long time lived in the United States, so I didn't meet her until I was like
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
But her cousin lived in Haiti, and she was kind of like my substitute grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And she's like an old, like evangelical, like not even like evangelical, just Protestant.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like she's
Yeah.
an older Protestant lady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She
She's
puts
married to
gusto.
Jesus.
Yes. She puts gusto in her chest when she prays. And so like for me, my praying style became like a myriad of that, and just
Yeah.
like realizing that I don't need to be speaking. I think my loudest prayers were like you were saying, the ones I made in silence, the
Yeah.
ones I made while I was gardening and planting and like
Yeah.
screaming internally, the
Yeah.
ones I make when like life is kicking me and like I have no other options but to like gasp for air in the shower as I'm sobbing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think writing has become like, as of right now, my
Yeah.
favorite way of praying. I manifested my current relationship through writing. No, it's really funny because like last summer I was like writing about what I want in relationships, and
Mhm.
it's a whole year later, and exactly like what I wanted is
No,
who
people
showed up to
forget.
me.
Clarity is our friend.
And there's nothing as powerful as quite as like a written petition. I
Yeah.
think like when I really want to get my ancestors like into the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
right.
writing and I'm burning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing and I'm burning, and I'm leaving it to them to handle that.
Yeah, no, I find that when I'm writing, but when I'm speaking out loud and loudly without fear, and just me just having a very organic conversation with a direct person I'm speaking to, whether it's like a physical ancestor or just someone that I wish I could speak to right now and I can't get to, like I still feel heard, and the universe finds a beautiful way conspiring for my good, and I get exactly what I bargained for,
Yeah.
but then some. Then some. I think that we really underestimate the power that if you keep your ancestors in just goodwill
Yeah.
around you, how much that seed actually can foster
Yeah.
your yield.
That is very true. And I think like in order to even get to that place with yourself though, like people have got to get a lot more comfortable being brutally honest with themselves. I think there's no reconnection, there's no healing, there's no moving forward in a healthy way
Yeah.
without that. And so, like,
Yeah.
encouraging that radical honesty, we will get that prayer answered, because a lot of the times, like, you're gonna get on that prayer and start asking for things that
Yeah.
you have no business going anywhere near, simply because it's from
Yeah.
the want and not from the actual self.
So, what do you pray for Haiti?
What do I pray for Haiti? Firstly, I want to start with an end of this occupation. First and foremost, I think what is happening is so violent
Yeah.
in a way that touches everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm praying for a cessation of that. I am praying for collective anger.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, um, when especially on a day like today, when I think of how Haiti got to where it got, it didn't get there through placency. It didn't get there through waiting for aid. It didn't get there through believing your oppressor. Haiti got there because people got angry, people got smart, people organized, and people fought back.
Yeah.
So I am praying for collective anger,
Yeah.
not just collective anger, but collective wisdom. I think it's like that anger is nothing without wisdom to aim it. It's just a tool. I pray for competent leadership.
Yeah.
I pray for the downfall of France. Let me say it one more time. I pray for the downfall of France.
Say it louder for the people in the
I'm
back.
gonna say it one more time. I pray for the downfall of France. The United States, you're right behind her. Israel, you're third.
Adjacent left.
Because they are. I pray to the uprooting of, like, like so many of the Zionists who are currently residing in Haiti, who have been for years now.
The richest people in Haiti being
Our
Zionists.
Zios, yeah. Right now, our Royal Caribbean is buying our island out from underneath us through Zios. So again, praying for their downfall.
Yeah.
And I am praying for just prosperity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful ass prayer. I really hope that the heavens in every corner heard you loud and clear. I hope my ancestors, I hope everybody in this room's ancestors, I hope the ancestors of every fallen plant in this room and in the world hears you. And as we continue to find renewal and, yeah, a rebirth of a nation. Because I think that's also, we get so like, revolution is supposed to look messy because
Yes.
it is.
Like it's there's no way to like politely ask for like oppression
Yeah.
to stop, and like
Yeah.
there's no neat way to like deal with the human experience in general.
Yeah, but what I do love and am very hopeful for the future. We got a lot of truths in 2024,
Mm.
but I hope that we continue to get more wildly blunt truths going forward because we've lived in disillusion for so long.
Not just blunt truths. I want truths as told by the Haitian people. I think a lot of the time, because I went to school in Haiti
Yeah.
for a good amount of time, a good
Yeah.
chunk of time, and I'm looking at the history we know and have studied, and that is being taught here.
Yeah.
And friend,
Yeah.
the
It's dual-
disparities.
It's revisionist.
Yes,
We're moving through
very.
revision history.
And I wouldn't have believed that it went to the extent that it went to, up until like the part where like I'm reading about history of things that happened in Haiti while I was present in Haiti.
Yeah.
Knowing what the truth is and reading what I'm reading, and it's especially around the horrors of the earthquakes and the aftermath thereof.
As soon as you said 2012, my mind always goes
the
back to
stories
the
I could tell we don't got the time.
Yeah.
This is not necessarily the place I would like to have the
Yeah.
conversation in.
In private, the
But
revolution
yes.
won't be televised.
But
But
it's
yeah.
very revisionist, and so like a huge part of that rebirth has to be the truth as told and experienced by the Haitian people.
Well, on that note, I am going to leave us and yeah, all of the internet streams that will come in contact with this video with yeah, offering this conversation to me is the closest thing to Sujumu that we have at this very moment. So I want to thank you for yeah being present and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, no, it matters. It matters to this day that we collectivize as much as possible and do what our ancestors would have wanted us to, which is eat together, talk to each other,
Yes.
pray for each other, and rebel. So,
Exactly.
see you. My name is DJ Pressure Point. My special guest today was the lovely, brilliant, and look out for that book that's gonna be coming out very fucking soon. I'm gonna let this video be your accountability buddy.
That's why I said it too. I was like, otherwise it's not getting done. I'm like, please hold me accountable.
Guys, Phii, please, and drop wherever you want people to continue following your path.
If you'd like to interact with my art, as I do post sometimes, not necessarily directly on my page, but like where I'm featured, you can follow me at Phii, PHAI_PHIII.
Yeah. And also look out, they also do a lot of amazing programming for the Black queer folks here in Miami, from BDSM as well as queer writing. Like, I think you're really fostering something very beautiful and fulfilling a niche that.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
trying to bring kink education to just the general public, because it's mostly about consent, and it's a topic that is very layered and very also straightforward if we have the right tools. So like making that space a bit more accessible is phenomenal. It's an honor.
Well, peace out, y'all, and I hope you have an amazing Independence Day. Up next, we
Bye.
got the lovely Lady Narcissist for a beautiful special set.